The orange cat sat at the window and watched the trees. Her name was, and she had been watching the trees for 3 days now. Something was wrong out there. She could feel it in her bones. Behind her, the little girl named was playing with her toys on the floor. She was 5 years old with round cheeks and curious eyes. She did not know that something was watching her from the forest, but knew, always knew. The colony of 7 was a small place. Only 200 humans lived there, on a moon far from Earth. The year was 2347, and humanity had spread across the stars. But some places were still wild and unknown. 7 was one of those places. Mother, Jinnah, worked in the big glass domes where plants grew. She was a botanist, which meant she helped grow food for everyone in the colony. Her father fixed machines and kept the power running. They were good people who worked hard and loved their daughter very much. "Come play with me," called out. The cat turned her head and looked at the child. Her yellow eyes were soft and warm. She jumped down from the window and walked to, rubbing her head against the girl's small hand. But even as she did this, her ears kept turning back toward the window. Listening, always listening. That evening the family sat together for dinner. The food was simple but good. Jinnah had grown the vegetables herself, talked about his work, about a broken generator that took him all day to repair, talked about her drawings and her games, and under the table sat close to feet, her tail wrapped around her paws. "Oh, the cat has been acting strange," Jinnah said, looking at. "She just sits at the window and stares outside for hours." Laughed. "She is a cat. They are all strange. Maybe she sees birds or something." "There are no birds here," Jinnah reminded him. "Not like on Earth." This was true. 7 had its own animals, but they were different. Strange creatures that lived in the purple forests around the colony. Most of them stayed far away from the human settlement. The colonists had been there for 6 years, and the local wildlife had learned to avoid them. "Maybe she misses Earth," said, reaching down to pet. "Do you miss Earth? Do you miss the birds?" purred, but her eyes stayed on the window. Outside, the sun was setting. The sky turned from blue to orange to dark purple. Soon it would be night. Bringing to 7 had not been easy. Transport ships charged extra for animals, and many people said it was a waste of money. But Jinnah had refused to leave without the cat. She had found as a tiny kitten back on Earth, small enough to fit in one hand. Now the cat was 4 years old and part of the family. A child needs a friend, Jinnah had told the transport officer, especially in a place so far from home. The officer had shaken his head but let them bring the cat. Now, 6 years later, Jinnah knew she had made the right choice, and were inseparable. Where the girl went, the cat followed. They slept together, played together, and shared secrets that only they understood. But lately something had changed. Was not playful anymore. She was alert, watchful, tense. The next morning heard strange news at work. One of the farmers had lost 3 animals from his livestock pen. Big animals, heavy and strong, they were just gone. No blood, no tracks, no signs of a struggle. Probably some local predator, said one of the engineers. This moon has plenty of dangerous things in those forests. But we have fences, the farmer argued. Electric fences. Nothing has ever gotten through before. The colony council held a meeting that afternoon. Attended because he was responsible for the power systems, including the fence. The council leader, an old man named Director Go, listened to everyone's concerns. We have lived here for 6 years without serious problems, Director Go said. I am sure this is just an animal, a hungry animal. We will increase patrols and check the fences. There is no need for alarm. Wanted to believe him. But when he came home that night and saw sitting at the window again, her fur slightly raised along her spine, he felt doubt creep into his heart. Did you hear about the missing animals? He asked Jinnah quietly, after had gone to bed. Jinnah nodded. Everyone is talking about it. Do you think it is serious? I do not know, but I think we should be careful. Keep close to home. They agreed. From now on, would not be allowed to play near the edge of the colony. She would stay where adults could see her at all times. That night woke up to a strange sound. It was. The cat was standing on the windowsill, her back arched, her fur standing straight up. A low growl came from her throat. It was a sound had never heard her make before. He got out of bed slowly and walked to the window. Outside, the colony was dark and quiet. The twin moons of the planet hung in the sky, casting pale light over the buildings and trees. Looked at the tree line, trying to see what had upset the cat. For a moment he saw nothing. Then just at the edge of the forest something moved. It was tall, very tall, and it had too many limbs. It blinked and it was gone. "What is it?" Jinnah whispered from the bed. "Nothing," said, but his voice was not steady. "Just shadows." But did not stop growling for a long time. 3 days later, came inside from the small yard behind their home. Her face was pale, and she was holding tightly against her chest. The cat's claws had left small scratches on its arms, but the girl did not seem to notice. "Mama," said, her voice small and frightened. "Mama, I saw something." Jinnah put down her work and knelt in front of her daughter. "What did you see, my love?" A shadow whispered. But it was wrong. It had too many arms, and it was watching me from the trees. Jinnah felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She looked at who had gone very still. "It is just your imagination," Jinnah said, pulling into a hug. "There is nothing out there. You are safe." But even as she said the words, she did not believe them. And when she looked at, still held tight in its arms, she saw that the cat was staring at the window again. Its ears were flat against her head. Her tail was puffed up to twice its normal size, and in her yellow eyes there was something Jinnah had never seen before. It looked like war. Outside, the forest was quiet, too quiet, and in the shadows between the trees something waited. It had been watching for weeks now. It had learned the patterns of the humans. It knew where they lived. It knew where they slept. And it knew exactly which child it wanted. The days that followed were filled with fear. Two colony scouts went into the forest to look for the missing livestock. Only one came back. He was shaking so badly he could not speak for hours. When he finally did speak, his words made no sense. Silent, he kept saying. So silent, it took him and there was no sound at all. The other scout was never found. Director Go called an emergency meeting. This time, every adult in the colony attended. Stood near the back, his arms crossed, his face serious. Jenna stayed home with. She did not want to leave their daughter alone, not even for an hour. We have sent a distress signal to the nearest military outpost, Director Go announced. Help is coming, but it will take 3 weeks to arrive. 3 weeks. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. What are we supposed to do until then? Someone shouted. We stay inside, Director Go said. We lock down the colony. No one goes near the forest. No one goes out alone. And most importantly, we keep the children safe. That night stayed up late in his workshop. He was searching through old files on his computer, looking for anything that might help them understand what they were facing. Most of the information was classified, locked away by the military, but knew a few tricks. He had been an engineer for a long time. What he found made his blood turn cold. The creatures were called They were hunters that traveled between stars, moving from world to world, taking what they wanted. And what they wanted more than anything else was children, young ones. From every intelligent species they encountered. No one knew why. Some scientists thought they ate them. Others thought they took them for some darker purpose. The files did not say. What the files did say was simple and terrifying. No colony had ever survived an attack with their children intact. Not one. Read about a colony on a desert world. 50 children had lived there. After the came, there were none. He read about a station near a gas giant. 30 children, all gone. He read report after report, each one worse than the last. They were patient. They watched their prey for weeks, sometimes months. They learned every pattern, every routine. They waited until the perfect moment, and then they struck, closed his computer, and put his head in his hands. How was he supposed to protect his daughter from something like this? When he finally came to bed, Jinnah was awake. She could see the fear in his eyes. "How bad is it?" she asked. Did not answer. He just held her close and tried not to think about what he had read. In his room, the little girl was sleeping peacefully. She did not know about the missing scouts or the locked files or her father's fear. She only knew that was there, warm and soft against her side, but was not sleeping. The cat lay perfectly still, but her eyes were wide open. She was watching the door. She was watching the window. She was watching every shadow in the room. Something was coming, could feel it. The threat was getting closer every day. The colony changed after that night. Armed guards walked the streets. Families stayed indoors. Children were not allowed outside at all. The playground sat empty. The laughter stopped. Did not understand why she could not go outside anymore. She missed the sun and the fresh air. She missed running and playing. But every time she asked, her parents said the same thing. "It is not safe right now, my love. Soon, but not now." So stayed inside with. They played games together. They looked at picture books. They took naps in the warm spot by the window, but even through the glass kept watching the trees. One morning, Jinnah noticed something strange on the outer wall of their home. She had gone outside to check the water recycler, and there, on the metal wall, she saw marks. Long, deep scratches that ran from the ground up to the level of his window. Jinnah felt her heart stop. The scratches were too high to be made by any animal she knew, too precise to be accidental. Something had climbed up there. Something had been trying to look inside. She ran back into the house and locked every door, every window. Then she called. "Come home," she said. "Come home right now." When saw the marks, his face went white. He did not say anything. He just went to his toolbox and started reinforcing the windows with extra locks and metal bars. "Will that stop them?" Jinnah asked. "I do not know," admitted. "I do not know what can stop them." That evening, the colony's perimeter sensors began to fail. One by one, the lights on the security map went dark. First the sensors near the forest, then the ones around the farming sector, then the ones near the residential area. The security team tried to fix them, but every time they went outside, they found the sensors destroyed. Not broken by accident, destroyed on purpose. The wires were cut. The cameras were crushed. Whatever was doing this knew exactly what it was targeting. "They are learning," said quietly to Jinnah. "They are learning how our technology works, and they are taking it apart." By midnight, only half the sensors were still working. The colony was going blind. In their home, the Park family gathered in the living room, held a tool that could also be used as a weapon. Jinnah held clothes and sat at the door to his bedroom, her body tense, her eyes bright. "Daddy, I am scared," whispered. "I know," little one said, "but I am here. Mama is here and is here. We will not let anything hurt you." Nodded and hugged. The cat did not complain about the tight grip. She just kept staring at the door. Outside, the last perimeter sensor went dark. The lights in the house flickered once, twice, and then went out. In the sudden darkness, stood up. Her fur rose along her spine. Her ears flattened against her skull. And from deep in her chest came a growl so low it was almost impossible to hear. She moved to stand directly in front of. Her claws came out, clicking softly on the floor. Whatever was coming, it would have to go through her first. The screaming started at the far end of the colony. At first, it was just one voice, then two, then dozens. The sound cut through the darkness like a knife through paper. Grabbed his weapon and ran to the window. He could not see much in the darkness, but he could see shapes moving between the buildings. Tall shapes, wrong shapes, too many limbs, too fast. "They are here," he whispered. "God help us, they are here." Jenna pulled toward the back of the house, toward the safest room. But before they could reach it, something hit the front door. The whole house shook. Metal bent and groaned. "Go," shouted. "Take to her room and lock the door. I will hold them here." Jenna did not want to leave her husband, but she looked at her daughter's terrified face, and she knew what she had to do. She picked up and ran down the hall, followed right behind them, her small paws silent on the floor. They reached the room and slammed the door shut. Jenna locked it and pushed the heavy dresser in front of it. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely move. "Mama, where is Daddy?" cried. "He is coming," Jenna said. "He will be here soon. Just stay quiet, my love. Stay very quiet." Another crash came from the front of the house. Then a sound that made Jenna's heart stop. Silence. Complete and total silence. She called out. There was no answer. Jenna pressed her ear to the door. She could hear something moving in the hallway, something heavy, something that did not walk like a human. "Mama," whimpered. Jenna said, "Be quiet. Do not make a sound." But it was too late. Whatever was in the hallway had already heard them. It stopped outside the door. Jenna could see a shadow under the crack, a shadow that was too long, too thin, too wrong. Then the door began to bend inward. Jenna looked around desperately. There was a window on the far wall. Maybe she could get out that way. Maybe they could run. "Come on," she whispered, grabbing his hand. But when she reached the window, she saw something that made her freeze. There was another one outside, standing in the yard, waiting. Its pale eyes reflected the moonlight like mirrors. They were trapped. The door behind them cracked. Wood splintered. The dresser slid across the floor. Jenna held tight and closed her eyes. She did not know what else to do. But then something happened that she did not expect. A loud noise came from outside. An alarm. Then lights. Emergency lights flooding the colony with harsh white brightness. The creature at the door stopped pushing. The one outside the window turned its head toward the light. For a moment, Everything was still. Then's voice came through the house speaker system. He was alive. He had reached the colony's emergency controls. All residents get to the central shelter. The power is back. Get to the shelter now. The creature outside the window turned and ran toward the source of the lights. The one at the door did the same. They did not like the brightness. They did not like being seen. Jenna did not waste a second. She pushed open the window, grabbed and climbed out. She ran toward the central building, holding her daughter against her chest. Ran beside her, keeping pace despite her small legs. All around them the colony was in chaos. Buildings were damaged. People were running and screaming. Jenna saw blood on the ground. She saw broken doors and shattered windows. But she did not stop. She could not stop. The central shelter was a big building made of thick metal. It had been built for emergencies like this. 100 colonists were already inside when Jenna arrived. She pushed through the crowd looking for Jenna, over here. She turned and saw him. He was hurt. There was a cut on his forehead and his arm hung at a strange angle, but he was alive. She ran to him and held him tight. I thought they got you. Almost, he said. But I got to the power station. The lights drove them back, at least for now. Where is, he asked suddenly, looking around with wild eyes. She is here. She is safe. Looked down and saw his daughter standing beside Jenna, holding in her arms. The little girl was crying, but she was not hurt. The cat was pressed against her chest, purring softly despite everything. Thank God, whispered. Thank God. But the night was not over. The lights held the back, but they did not leave. Through the windows of the shelter, the colonists could see them at the edge of the brightness. Dozens of them. Tall, gray figures with too many limbs and eyes that reflected light like broken glass. They were waiting. The lights will not last forever, one of the engineers said. The backup power is limited. We have maybe 6 hours before it runs out. And then someone asked. No one answered. They all knew what would happen then. Jinnah sat in a corner with on her lap, sat beside them, his broken arm wrapped in cloth. They did not speak. There was nothing to say. Had stopped crying. She was just staring at the window, at the shapes in the darkness. Her small arms were wrapped around, holding the cat like a lifeline. "Mama," she said quietly, "is shaking." Jinnah looked at the cat, was indeed trembling, but it was not fear. Her eyes were fixed on the creatures outside. Her pupils were wide and black. Her muscles were tense under her fur. She was not trembling from fear. She was trembling from something else, something ancient, something that had been sleeping inside her for millions of years, something that was finally waking up. The lights failed after 5 hours. One by one, they flickered and went dark. The colony was swallowed by shadow once again. Inside the shelter, people began to panic. Some screamed, some cried, some prayed to gods they had almost forgotten. The children were herded to the center of the room, surrounded by adults with whatever weapons they could find. But though were clever, they did not attack the shelter directly. They knew that the humans had gathered their children together. They knew that the adults would fight hardest there, so they waited, they watched, and they found another way. In the chaos of the evacuation, one family had not made it to the shelter. They had hidden in their home instead, thinking they would be safer alone. The Park family did not know this. No one knew this. Not until the screaming started again. The screaming came from the north side of the colony. Then it stopped, just like that, cut off in the middle. And then the moved again. They came from all directions this time, not attacking but herding, driving the adults away from the children, creating confusion and fear. In the shelter, someone opened a side door to look outside. It was a mistake. A gray arm reached through the gap and pulled him into the darkness. His screams lasted only seconds. Panic turned to madness. People ran in every direction. The careful formation around the children fell apart. Families were separated. Parents lost their children in the crowd. Jinnah held onto with all her strength, tried to stay close, but his broken arm slowed him down. Someone pushed past him and he fell. Jinnah screamed. Go, he shouted back. Protect, I will find you. Jinnah did not want to leave him, but was crying and clinging to her neck and was pulling at her leg with urgent paws. She had to choose. She chose her daughter. Jinnah ran. She did not know where she was going. She just ran, away from the screaming, away from the shadows, away from the creatures that hunted in the dark. She found herself back at their home. The front door was broken, hanging from one hinge, but's room was at the back. Maybe they could hide there. Maybe they could survive until dawn. She climbed through the broken door and ran down the hall. This room was still intact. The window had been fixed with metal bars. The door was strong. Jinnah pushed inside and locked the door behind her. She put on the bed and looked around for anything she could use as a weapon. "Mama, I am scared," whispered. "I know, baby, I know, but we are going to be okay. We just have to wait until morning." Jumped onto the bed and pressed herself against. The cat was no longer trembling. She was perfectly still. Her eyes were fixed on the window. Outside, something moved. Jinnah saw it through the metal bars. A shape in the darkness, tall and thin and wrong. It was looking at the window, looking at her daughter. Jinnah grabbed a heavy lamp from the desk. It was not much, but it was all she had. "Stay behind me," she said. The creature outside tilted its head. It had no expression that Jinnah could read, no emotion, just cold, empty hunger. Then it reached for the window. The metal bars bent like soft wire. The glass shattered. Cold air rushed into the room. Jinnah swung the lamp. It hit the creature's arm, but the creature did not seem to feel it. It pushed into the room, unfolding itself through the broken window. It was even bigger than Jinnah had thought. 8 feet tall, 4 arms, skin like gray stone. It reached for and then moved. The cat launched herself from the bed like a missile. 4 kilograms of fur and muscle and ancient rage. She hit the creature's face with her claws out, and she did not let go. The had hunted 1,000 species. It had taken prey from creatures 10 times its size. It feared nothing in the known universe. But it had never felt anything like this. Its claws tore into its eyes. Her teeth found its throat. She was a blur of orange fur and red fury, scratching and biting and screaming a battle cry that sounded like nothing a house cat should make. The tried to grab her, but she was too fast. It tried to shake her off, but she held on with claws that would not let go. Blood ran down its face, not red like human blood, black, thick and oily. It screamed. The sound was horrible, like metal scraping against metal, like ice breaking, like nothing Jinnah had ever heard. But did not stop. She climbed higher on the creature's head and bit down on something soft, something important. The creature's scream turned into a gurgle. It fell backward through the window, taking with it. I screamed. Jinnah ran to the window and looked out. The was on the ground, thrashing, was still on top of it, still fighting. The small cat against the giant hunter. Then the creature stopped moving. Climbed off slowly. She was covered in black blood. One of her ears was torn. She was limping on her front leg, but she was alive. She looked up at the window, at her human. Then she limped back toward the house. Jinnah reached down and picked her up. The cat was so light, so small, so impossibly brave. "A good girl," Jinnah whispered, tears running down her face. "Good girl." Grabbed and held her tight. The cat purred even though she was hurt, even though she was bleeding. She purred because her human was safe. And outside, something strange was happening. Other sounds were filling the night. Barking, hissing, growling. Across the colony, other earth animals were waking up. A dog named was tearing into a that had cornered 2 children. A pair of cats were working together to blind another. Even a small ferret was biting at a creature's ankle, driving it away from a crying baby. The animals of Earth were fighting back, and for the first time in their long history of hunting, were afraid. They ran back to the forest, back to the shadows, away from these small, soft creatures that fought like demons. When the sun rose over 7, they were gone. The military ships arrived 11 days early. They had received the distress signal and pushed their engines beyond safe limits to reach 7. They expected to find a dead colony. They expected to find empty buildings and silent streets. Instead, they found survivors. The soldiers could not believe what they were seeing. In every other attack they had responded to, every single child had been taken. Every one. But here, on this small moon at the edge of human space, the children were alive. How? The commander asked Director Go. How is this possible? Director Go smiled, though his eyes were tired. Come with me. I will show you. He took the commander to the medical center where the wounded were being treated. On one bed, a small orange cat lay sleeping. Her ear was bandaged. Her leg was wrapped in soft cloth. A little girl sat beside her, holding her paw. This is, Director Go said. She killed by herself, saved this child and her mother. The commander stared. A cat, a house cat did this. Not just her. Look. Around the medical center, other animals rested. A large brown dog with cuts on his face. 2 gray cats with torn claws. A ferret missing half its tail. Each one had fought. Each one had bled. Each one had refused to let the hunters take the children. We brought these animals from Earth, Director Go said. We thought they were just pets. We thought they were just companions for the lonely journey. We had no idea what they really were. The military sent scientists to study what had happened. They examined the dead. They interviewed the survivors. They collected data and wrote reports. And slowly they began to understand. A scientist named Doctor called a meeting 3 days later. Every survivor who could walk attended. The Park family sat in the front row, with resting in its lap. The cat's wounds were healing well, but she still tired easily. I need to explain something important, Doctor said. Something about Earth, something about us, and something about our animals. She put up an image on the screen. It showed Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Most intelligent species in the galaxy evolved on stable worlds, she said. Worlds with calm weather, few predators, and gentle ecosystems. Life on those worlds is peaceful. It does not need to fight to survive. She changed the image. Now it showed a prehistoric Earth. Volcanoes erupted, dinosaurs hunted. The sky was dark with ash. Earth is not like those worlds. Earth is what scientists call a death world. For millions of years, everything on Earth has been trying to kill everything else. The weather is violent. The diseases are aggressive. And the predators are everywhere. She looked at the audience. They were listening carefully. Every creature that survived on Earth had to become a fighter. Even the gentle ones. Even the small ones. The instinct to protect, to attack, to never give up no matter the size of the enemy. That is built into every Earth animal, including us. She pointed at cats evolved over 50 million years on Earth. They are perfect predators. Small, yes, but they have claws that can cut through leather, teeth that can break bone, reflexes faster than anything they have ever encountered. Doctor smiled. The hunt species from peaceful worlds. They have never met anything from a death world before. They did not know what our animals were capable of. And when those animals saw children in danger, 50 million years of evolution woke up. They did not care that the enemy was bigger. They did not care that they might die. They only cared about protecting their pack. Raised her hand. Everyone looked at her. Yes, little one, Doctor said. Is not from a pack, said seriously. She is from a family, my family. Doctor's smile grew wider. You are absolutely right, and that is exactly why she fought so hard. After the meeting, the military commander found standing outside the medical center. His arm was in a proper cast now. He was watching Jinnah, and through the window they were playing with, dangling a string for her to chase. "Your cat is a hero," the commander said. "She is family," replied. "She was never just a pet." The commander nodded slowly. "We are going to recommend that every frontier colony keep Earth animals. Dogs, cats, whatever they can transport, not as luxuries, as defenders." Looked at him. "The universe should be warned. Earth does not breed gentle creatures. It breeds survivors. It breeds fighters, including humans," the commander said. "Especially humans." A week later, the evacuation ships were ready. The colony of 7 would be abandoned for now, until the military could make sure they were truly gone. The survivors would be relocated to a safer world. Helped Jinnah carry their bags to the transport, walked beside them, holding carefully in her arms. The cat's leg was almost healed, but insisted on carrying her anyway. "I was thinking," said quietly to Jinnah. "Transport space is limited. Maybe we should." Jinnah stopped walking. She turned and looked at her husband with an expression that could have melted steel. "Oh, do not finish that sentence," she said. "I was just. That cat saved our daughter. She almost died protecting. She goes where we go. Always, forever. Do you understand?" Raised his good hand in surrender. "I understand. I was wrong to even think it." "Yes, you were." They boarded the transport ship together. The inside was crowded with families and their belongings. But there was space for everyone, including the animals. Especially the animals. Found a seat by a window. She could see the colony below as the ship rose into the sky. The buildings, the domes, the forest where the monsters had hidden, all of it getting smaller and smaller until it disappeared into the clouds. "Oh, goodbye, 7, she whispered, meowed softly, and pressed her head against Chin. "Do not worry," said to the cat. "We will find a new home, a better home, and you will be there to protect me. Right?" The cat purred. Her yellow eyes were calm now. The danger was over. Her human was safe. That was all that mattered. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, fell asleep, lay across her chest, rising and falling with the girl's gentle breathing. The cat's eyes closed slowly, but her ears still moved, still listening, still watching. She was a child of Earth, small, soft, and beautiful, but inside her beat the heart of a warrior, a protector, a killer of monsters. And she would do it all again, without hesitation, if anything ever threatened her human. That was what it meant to be from a death world. That was what it meant to be family. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and full of danger. But on that transport ship, a little girl slept peacefully, because she knew without any doubt that her small orange guardian would always keep her safe. And somewhere in the galaxy, they learned a lesson they would never forget. Never take a child from Earth, not while their cats are watching. And slept in arms, dreaming of nothing at all. In 4 hours the lights would fail. In 4 hours they would come again. And this time there would be nowhere to run, but would be ready. And somewhere in the darkness outside, moving closer with every silent step, they began their hunt. Soon it would come,